there is a marble in your boot. It's a strange thing to say, but what happened to me quite a little while ago was I have a 5-year-old, and 5-year-olds like marbles. And in fact, Caleb, inspired by one of his besties, had seen a thing called a marble run. So a marble run is you get cardboard and you make you pour the marble in and it kind of just works its way down. It's really fun. It's very cool. He had made one, and so now there were marbles in the house, marbles everywhere. Everywhere you looked, there was a marble. Anyway, one day, I'm driving, and I hear this very strong marble on metallic sound coming from the back of my car. And I'm going, well, what is that? Turned a corner. It's a new car. I'm stressing. I'm thinking, what is happening now? This is not a cool moment for me. This is not what I need right now. Turned a corner, and it was this. Turned the corner, and I could hear this thing going behind me, and I thought, what on earth is happening? It took me a little while to realize there was a marble in my boot. But this marble had snuck under the carpeted surface of the boot, down below the tire wheel, the spare tire, rolling around like a punk, just irritating and pushing my buttons, because every time I turned a corner, I could hear there was a marble in my boot. Up a hill, marble in my boot. Down a hill, marble in my boot. Turn left, marble in my boot. It just was this consistent thing. And it went on for weeks. And I could not find the marble in my boot. Every time I opened it up, I took the spare wheel out. I took the thing that apparently is called a spanner. You use that for something. And as I kept on looking, I couldn't find the marble in the boot. It was almost as if when I stopped to be intentional about removing it from the boot, it decided it was going to hide in a crevice somewhere where it was unreachable for me. And I have to say, driving with me for a good month was stressful, because every time I turned my corner, there was a marble in my boot. Now I know there's a marble in my boot. Now I'm irritated because there's a marble in my boot. What started to be even more irritating was it wasn't necessarily there every time I turned a corner. So I started to wonder, is this a corner where I'm going to hear the marble in my boot? Or is this not a corner where I'm going to hear the marble in my boot? And then I started to think about the marble as I got into the car. We started to develop this relationship, me and this marble, this toxic relationship of going, good morning, marble. Are you going to be in my boot today? Then sometimes I wouldn't hear marble. Sometimes I missed it. Such as the toxic relationship we have with certain things in our lives. To be honest, I didn't do like a proper look, but like a deep clean look. I just looked around my tire, picked up the bag with the tools in it, and I couldn't find it every time I moved on. I drove around, and eventually I thought, okay, Lord, are you talking to me through the marble in my boot? I'm not like a super spiritual kind of guy. I don't often, I'm not looking for, demons behind every bush. But for a moment, I just thought, God, what are you trying to say to me now? It's been a good 4 weeks and there's still a marble in my boot. Could you please take this marble from me? For it torments me. 3 times I've asked you to take it from me. In this thought process, I started to think about the fact that we actually all have marbles in our boots. We have things in our lives like that marble that we cannot seem to get rid of, get to the bottom of. We can't beat it. We can't get over it. We can't heal from it. We can't get sober from it. Every once in a while in our lives, we have a marble in our boot. And sometimes we have it under our thumb for a while. I haven't heard it for a couple months. But I don't know. Today, I might turn left and I could say, how's it, Matt? I'm in your boot still. And this marble could be addiction, anxiety, unhealthy patterns or rhythms in our lives. It could be something that you have control for over most of the time. And then every once in a while, out of nowhere, you've got everything under control. You've done your steps, and all of a sudden you find yourself with a marble in your boot. It's like me and gluten. I can go months without gluten. And then all of a sudden, I'm at someone's house, there's a piece of cake, it's in my hand, it's in my mouth. There's a marble in my boot. Out of nowhere, you succumb to the untrue thought or that competitive thought about your friend, or it's a drink, or it's porn, or it's a bad habit, or like me, maybe a Kit Kat every once in a while. Sometimes we even find ourselves in spaces where we are even more tempted to think that way or do that thing or take on that sensitivity, or we are super easily offended. And we actually find for most of the time, then all of a sudden someone says something out the blue and we go, oh, that really hurt my feelings. It's like you just turn that corner too hard, or that hill is just too steep and it dislodges the marble in your boot. Another way to look at it is my relationship with Kit Kats. We have a good relationship, me and Kit Kat. We're on a first name basis, because when I walk past it says Matt. It's Kit Kat. I'm calling you my beloved one. And before I'm home, Kit Kat's gone. Gone. Less that happens less these days, but I have to confess sometimes there's still a marble in my boot. And it's rattling and it's rolling. And when the marble is not rolling, it's like we can breathe. And there's peace. And we have control. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I want to ask you this morning, what's the marble in your boot? Or the marbles in your boot? So this morning I'm going to look at a couple of people, and then we're going to look at Mary, we're going to look at Moses, we're going to look at Martha, and then we're going to just have a quick look at Paul. We're going to drive past Paul. And I want to look at these stories this morning because they had marbles in their boots. In fact, every character in this book we read called the Bible, everybody's got a marble in their boot. Everybody's got something that they're struggling with, something that they can't get control over, and yet God uses them despite themselves. So this morning we're going to look at Moses, we're going to look at Martha, we're going to drive past Paul, and then I want to give us just 9 steps, 9 practical things we can do in our lives that we can take into the week, into our workplace, into our families, to that reunion, wherever you're going, that you can massage into your life. And I think that because Scripture tells us, I'm fairly confident, we can find a way to get that marble out the boot. That marble out the boot. So let's start with Moses this morning. We're going to start with Moses. I like Moses. He's a pretty cool guy. We know his story. We know what he's about. He's a Hebrew kid who's essentially adopted by a princess, an Egyptian princess. He goes on a crazy journey. He seems, we can take from the story in Exodus 2 onwards, we can kind of glean the fact that he knows he's a Hebrew, because it says he goes and hangs out with his people, and he gets quite defensive when he sees an Egyptian god messing with one of his kin, and so he kills the oak. So we know he's got a temper. Okay, straight away, he's probably got dad issues, identity crisis, he's got a temper, and so he sees this. He then goes to stop a confrontation with a couple of other Hebrews, and they say, hey, are you going to kill us like you killed the god? He realizes that the jig is up, he's got to get out of town, and so he runs. And then that's the story of Moses, and then he goes into the desert, and I'm not going to all of that detail this morning. Essentially, we find him in Exodus 3, we find this moment where he encounters God, and God is calling him to the plan and the purpose that he has for Moses. And we find out very quickly that Moses has a marble in his boot. We find out quite quickly that Moses struggles with stuff like we struggle with stuff when it comes to doing the things that God has called us to. You see, Moses seemed to be a bit off because he kind of lost track of the incredible placement of his life. He seemed to not put the pieces of the puzzle together that landed him in a burning bush moment. We talk about burning bush moments in our lives. He was the original burning bush moment. It was Moses and God. Take off your shoes. This is holy ground. We know this. In fact, some of you, if you haven't read it, you've watched it in a great movie, The Prince of Egypt. Hey? Good movie. So we know the story well. It's massaged into the fabric of our popular culture even, the story of Moses. And yet, what's interesting to me is the man who one day puts the staff in the ground and the sea parts, and this man who leads a people from slavery to freedom, this great man, of which Harriet Tubman is known as the Moses amongst the slave traders because she did the same thing. She freed people out of slavery and sent them into freedom. So Moses is a big deal, just his name is symbolic of being freed from slavery, from bondage. Before that staff went in the ground and into the rock and water came out, and before the sea got parted, Moses had a marble in his boot. Moses didn't think he could do it. Moses carried an insecurity about himself that we would maybe not think he would have. We're going to talk about this now. So he's full of insecurity. He's full of fear. He seems to be a glass half empty kind of guy. He's a little pessimistic about himself. And like so many of us, he's failed to see and remember God's hand in his life on a daily basis. I think sometimes we forget the simple reality of Jesus working in and through our lives, those little mercies. In Exodus 4 verse 1, God's like, yo, Moses, come free my people. Okay? Moses is like, yeah, but who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? This is Exodus 3:11. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? So straight away, he's got the marble in his boot, that clunking sound as he turns the corner into the calling that God has for him. He's like, I can't do this. Who am I? I'm just Moses. I'm no one special. I mean, can you imagine if a rugby player who spent the entire life getting ready to play for the Springboks is called and they say to Rassie, Rassie, who am I? Who am I? Such an unusual thing for such a strong leader. So straight away, we see there's doubt and insecurity. His marble, doubt and insecurity. What's your marble this morning? What's the marble in your boot? Then a little bit later, God goes to him again. Yo, Moses, I need you to lead my people out of slavery into freedom. And Moses goes in 4 verse 1, he says, but what if they don't believe me or listen to me? Straight away, half glass empty kind of guy. This is the marble in his boot. This is the fear, the insecurity that rises up in that moment. Again, doubt, again, insecurities. I love this. I want to read this because I think this is such a cool description of what I think I am like. Then the Lord said to him, well, what's in your hand? And he said, a staff. And the Lord said, well, throw it to the ground. Moses throws it to the ground, it becomes a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reaches out his hand, takes hold of the snake, it turned back into a staff in his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand inside his cloak. When he takes it out, the skin was leprous. It had become white as snow. Now put it back in your cloak, God said. So Moses puts the hand back in the cloak. He pulls it out, restored, looking like a normal hand, like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. But if they don't believe these 2 signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile, pour it on dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. This is the Old Testament version of James Bond. You know when James Bond got the mission, and then he went to the best part of James Bond was when he went to go visit Q, the technical guy. And then it's like he encounters Q in the lab, and then Q's like, hey, here's a credit card that turns into a plane, or here's some underpants that's bulletproof, or here's a cigarette that when you click it, it's going to assassinate the Russian president 500 kilometers away. You know what I mean? This is like God saying, dude, I've called you. I'm giving you everything you need. Everything. I'm filling all the cups that you don't feel you have so that you can go and do the thing I've called you to. But Moses had a marble in his boot. It was that thing that just rose up within him. He just couldn't get over his stuff. He just couldn't get over his insecurities. I just want to pause here and say that God will always equip you for the thing He's called you to. You have to believe Him. He will give you, in this case, all the tricks in the book. Everything you need to do the thing He's called you to, He'll give you. But we have to get over the marble in our boot. Well, Moses met with God, and He gives him all the tricks he needs to win, and he's still not feeling it. Then he brings up his insecurity. He says, yeah, but I can't talk properly. Pardon your servant, Lord. I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and tongue. Despite all of that, the marble in his boot, he doesn't think he can do it. We can call it his childhood trauma. We can call it the fact that he was adopted. We can call it the fact that he had this incredible traumatic story as a kid into a prince of Egypt, then running away with probably a jail price on his head. The insecurity, the fear, the doubt are all on display here. His marble. Do we ever allow these kind of things to get in the way for us? The marble in our boot? What's your marble? What's your marble? God uses us despite the marble in our boot. He'll use you despite your weakness. In fact, He likes it that way. Many years later, many years later, in Luke 10, Jesus is invited by a lady called Martha to go and hang out to her house. So Luke 10, verse 38 to 42, this is what it says. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman called Martha opened her home up to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord replied, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. It's a very incredible little moment that. We've heard the sermons from this. Are you a Mary? Are you a Martha? But I just want to focus on Martha this morning because Martha had a marble in her boot. Martha had a people-pleasing nature to her that rose up when she had the Messiah in her house. She got caught up in doing all the right things the wrong way. Now, there's nothing wrong with working. There's nothing wrong with doing that kind of stuff, okay? In fact, I think we can learn from both of these women and meet in the radical middle of these two things. But just to unpack this, Jesus is in the room. She invited him to her home, and we see, one, she's distracted by all that needed to be done. That's a marble in the boot. That's something that's just this little distraction. It's not like she was invited him to her house and then went out and left the oak in the house to sort himself out. She was present. She was doing what she was supposed to be doing, but she just got distracted by all the wrong things in that moment. See, the marble in our boot is not this necessarily always these crazy addictions or life-altering moments. The marble in our boot is that intrusive thought that goes, am I doing the right thing here? Or did I say the right thing to that person? Or they offended me. These little things that can build up and cause distraction in our lives. Martha had a few marbles. She was distracted by task. She was comparative with her sister. She was worried and upset. Jesus says, you are worried and upset about many things. Now, I don't necessarily think that is just about the moment in the house. I think he's saying, Martha, you as a person, you are worried and upset about many things in your life. Anxiety, worry, fear, the marble in her boot. I find these very familiar to me personally. I struggle with fear. You know, it's a little bit of a fun church joke when I talk about my fear of flying. You know, I have another couple of you in the audience, in the congregation this morning. We will endure together. You know, I can't help it. I'm sure anyone that's a parent, well, not if you don't, if you're a parent like me and your child coughs, I go, oh, well, it's been a great 5 years, Caleb. Thanks for being a good son. I sometimes can't help that. It comes out of nowhere. Or I'm just walking down the road, being vulnerable with you guys this morning. I'm walking down the road. I feel this like stiffness in my arm, and I'm like, okay, Lord, is this the moment? Are you taking me now? This fear of dying, I don't know if it's just my age or working with Tane, I don't know what it is, but sometimes I'm just going, we all have these moments. Or, let's just have a bit of fun here. If you're ever on an aeroplane and you see the door and you go, should I just open the door? Anyone ever have that feeling? No? Sorrel's looking at me like, you terrible person. Sometimes I'm like, what will happen if I just open the door? I'm sure some of you have those intrusive thoughts. Hey, what happens if I just push that person into the pool? We all have a marble in our boot. We all have something that comes out of nowhere for no reason at all sometimes. But the truth is, we think for no reason at all. The truth is, it comes from deep, deep spaces in who we are. You see, we know that, I made a joke about it earlier, we know that Paul talks about it, that he had a thorn in his flesh. He talks about it in Corinthians. He talks about the thorn in his flesh. So it's a very good example of that, like that thorn in our flesh. What's that thing that we struggle with? Lots of thoughts have been about what that thorn was, but the fact remains that Paul also had a marble in his boot. One of the things that I hold on to in these type of moments where I'm thinking about this is Romans 12:2, where it says, and this is cliche scripture, guys, we know this, we've heard this, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. It's such an overused verse in this world, but it's overused for a reason, because I think that everything that we long for when there's a marble in our boot can be found in this passage. The marble in our boot is often a result of the way of this world. The marble in our boot is often a result of a bunch of thinking or thought pattern that we've subscribed to in the world that we live in today. In fact, the world convinces us that the marbles are just part of life. But it says here that he has a good and pleasing and perfect plan, good will for our lives. That's what the Bible tells us. That's what we can lean into. God's will is pleasing, it's good, it's perfect, which means for me today and for us going forward, no more marbles. That we may believe that there are no more marbles. Now, Paul's thorn, I don't think gets removed from him. But he asked for it to be removed. People that are caught in the midst of hardcore addiction sometimes will know and wonder in their minds, will I ever be freed from this thing? Will I ever be free from this thought about myself, that I'm a worthless human? We all know, regardless of what facade you put on to the world around you, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, it's you, yourself, a mirror, and often not much on, and you see yourself for everything that you are. And in that moment, who you think you are comes through. We all struggle with this. It's a reality of just being a human being. We all have a marble in our boot, and we often wonder, if they knew what I thought about myself, maybe they wouldn't even accept me, if they knew what I thought. And so I just want to say this morning that the cross, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus point to the fact that the marble in our boot does not have to be the reality for our lives. Does not have to be the reality for our lives. We might be on this side of eternity, but the renewing your mind is about starting to believe the words of Jesus more than your words about yourself and the enemy's words about your life. It's about aligning yourself with Scripture to the point where you start to believe what Jesus says about you more than what the world says about you. And if we can get to that point in our lives where we start to spend time in the Scripture to the point where we believe what it's saying about us, after a while, without even realizing it, you'll probably notice, hey, there's no marble in my boot. I haven't heard it for a while. It's a slow, steady walk. Everyday, ordinary choices rooted in Scripture, rooted in our identity that Jesus has for us, the identity that He died on the cross for. It's slowly believing those words on a daily basis. It's slowly stopping yourself, arresting yourself when that thought comes and saying, no, I'm not going to think that way. The problem is you go, I will not think that thought. I will not think that thought. What thought? That thought. Flip, I thought that thought. You know, that's just human nature. That's who we are. And this book is perfectly designed for us. It's ready for us to understand that God's ways Don't make sense to us, doesn't make sense to the world, but the truth is they make sense to Him, and we need to subscribe to those things. And so this morning, I want to just get super practical as I close today. I want to lean into 9 things. I'm going to run through it quickly, or it'll come up. If you want to take some of these verses down, I just thought, one of the things we need to do in these moments, when there's a fire, what do they say that you do? Stop, drop, and roll. Hey? Cool. If you're on a plane and it's going wrong, what do they say you do? You put your head in between your legs and you kiss your butt goodbye. Okay? We all have these things in our lives that we know we have to do, but yet we sometimes I find myself not equipped to deal with that intrusive thought, to put it under my thumb. Dallas Willard, it's probably for me one of the most beautiful descriptions of this is, can you put the stuff under your thumb? Just like that. Keep it there. Authority over it under your thumb. So I want to get very practical today, and I'm going to just give you what I think, and with a couple of verses, what we can do to help us get rid of the marble in our boot. Okay, are you ready? Number 1, I think we have to be aware of our stuff. We have to be aware of our surroundings. Ephesians 5:15 and 16 says, "Be careful then how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because these days are evil." Let's be aware of our surroundings. Let's be aware of where we are. It's like, I really struggle with, this is third person, okay? This is not a confession from... So someone really struggling with lust and going, I can't understand why I keep on falling into this lustful temptation. It's like, well, dude, just like stop going to that part of town where the pictures and the woman are there. Like, avoid the bar. Avoid the place where there's comparison, deep comparison in your heart. We'll get to avoidance just now. So number 1, be aware. Number 2, it's good to reflect. It's good to think about stuff. It's good to self-reflect. 2 Corinthians 13 verse 5 says, "Examine yourselves to see whether you are living in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you?" Sometimes we need to reflect and go, all right, so how have I done this week? Let's not just put our heads in the sand about the marble in our boot. Let's get rid of the marble, and then let's reflect about where were we and how did we do this. I'm not saying you have to self-audit all the time to the point where you just want to, run into traffic. I'm just saying sometimes we just need to reflect. We need to be aware. We need to reflect. Number 3, make a note, write it down. It's really helpful. We sit in the presence of a journaling legend, 45, 50 years worth of journaling. It's quite something to see. And I think probably, a month of his entire life is not journaled. Like, that's a crazy thing if you think about how old he is and how long he's been doing it for. But the reality is, I'm learning to journal myself now. I'm learning, and I'm simple. I'm like, Dad, how do you do it? He's like, okay, cool. Write the date at the top. Okay, I've got that. All right, now write a thought down. And you can start to figure it out. Now, I'm not doing it every day, but I'm trying at least like 2-3 times a week. I can see what God's doing. Like in that moment where you're doubting God's breakthrough, what about going and reading your own words about when He did break through, like a couple months ago or a year ago? So number 1, be aware. Number 2, reflection's important. Do that by making a note, write it down. Number 4, hand it over. Hand it over to Jesus. 1 Peter 5 verse 7 says, "Cast all your anxiety onto Him because He cares for you." Psalm 55 verse 22 says, "Cast your cares on the Lord and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken." That's what it says in Psalm 55 verse 22. Proverbs 3, 5-6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him and He will make your path straight." Hand it over. 1, be aware. 2, reflect. 3, write it down. 4, hand it over. 5, build better habits. Don't come and say, "Oh, I can't build a habit. My habits are bad." Well, build better ones. It's just like a simple fact of life. If you want better, build better. That's just how life works. And trust me, as somebody who isn't the most disciplined of people, building a habit is very important for me. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Build better habits. 1 Timothy 4, 7-8 says, train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has a value for all things. Says it even, and by the way, these are like a few of many verses for all of these things. Galatians 6 verse 9 says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap the harvest if we do not give up. Build better habits. So, 1, awareness. 2, reflection. 3, make a note, write it down. 4, hand it over. 5, build better habits. 6, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Come on. Hebrews 12:2, fix your eyes on. Fix your eyes on the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. You go where you look. That's just like our nose, it's like a weird front rudder for our body. Kind of, if you go where you're looking, you're going to go fine. If you're going that way and you're looking that way, the chances are at some point you're going to walk into something. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. This is all about Jesus. This list without Jesus is earthly self-help. Put Jesus in the mix, not only are you building a habit, not only are you handing it over, not only are you writing it down, not only are you reflecting, and not only are you building awareness in your life, you're doing that in partnership with Jesus and partnership with Holy Spirit, who is there to walk this road with you so you're not alone. That the power of heaven is in and through you. Number 7, pray, pray, pray. And the best verse in the entire Bible about prayer is 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 17. It just says this, pray continually. Boom. Just do it. Just pray. Talk to God. Do you know one of the biggest fears of Gen Z and the next generation today is lack of communication with people and acceptance? Well, you don't really need to worry about that when you have a consistent line with the King, the creator of all things. Don't worry about friendship, friends are good, eh? I like friends. But you have a consistent line. Prayer is the consistent line. I thought about talking about prayer today, but I thought I didn't want half of us to fall asleep, including myself, because it's like the boring topic. But prayer is important. Jesus modeled it for us. Number 8, friends, friends, friends. Community. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens the other. That's Proverbs 27, verse 17. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 and 10 says, 2 are better than 1, because they have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. Bible also tells us where 2 or more are gathered, the presence of God is there. So it's not that you just have a friend. When you are with someone else, the presence of God is there. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Interwoven into our need for community is the answer of God present in that community. Number 9. You don't always have to beat it. Sometimes you need to avoid it. Sometimes we just got to avoid it. Sometimes you just have to use wisdom to steer clear and allow God to work on you. And this was 2 Timothy 2 verse 22. Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call the Lord out of a pure heart. Flee the evil desires. So if I'm walking up the road and I just check you bolting it, I know, you run from that desire, Ross, you run. You run from pulling that landscaper's plant out of his garden with a sign. You do it. I'll do it for you, Ross. I'll do it for you. Let's be aware. Let's reflect. Let's make a note. Let's hand it over. Let's build better habits. Let's focus on Jesus. Let's lean into prayer. Let's love community. And let's, if we need to, run from the stuff that is the marble in your boot. Sometimes you just have to do it. I am by no means a guru on the subject. This is why I am actually talking about this morning. I need this just as much as we all need this. And I needed to build exercise into my life, okay? I needed to do it. It just needed to happen. And so I went down one day, walked down my stairs, which is for me sometimes enough exercise in and of itself. I got to the road, I stood on the road, I looked down, and I just saw garage after garage after garage, and I just thought, I don't want to walk today, because I just don't want to look at garages. And then I thought, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go upstairs, get my car, I'm going to drive to the beach. And I did that. Sometimes that impulse, just to do something, to change something, to start something new, just to start the habit. It all has a starting point. It all has a genesis. Everything we do, every journey we see, every life of maturity that we see today is years and years and years of building to that moment. So I got in my car, drove to the beach, and I tricked myself. If I walk half an hour one way, I have to walk half an hour back. It's a great trick to play on yourself, and I did that. And I continue to do that most mornings. And that has built sanity into my life. Sometimes we think of all the reasons why we're going to just accept the marble in our boot. Sometimes it's just, it is what it is. We accept it, we move on, and we just focus on the other things in our lives. Sometimes we just need to make a change. And just like Moses, with the marble in his boot, was used to take a people from slavery into freedom, and just like Martha is a beautiful model of what it means to host someone in their home, and just like the list goes on, the disciples not believing Jesus or running away with fear or abandoning him, just like Abraham thought his age was in the way, just like Adam and Eve blamed each other, every character in this book, bar Jesus, has a reality of a marble in their boot. And what we need to do is take it, we need to own it, to be aware of it. Take some of the things that I've said. I don't even think you need to do all 9. I think just start with 1. Let's just start. Let's just start today. Let's talk about it. Have a conversation. I wouldn't suggest you ask your significant other what they think your marble in the boot is. That could make for an awkward lunch, but why don't we own our stuff? Why don't we own our stuff? Let's take ownership of the marble. Let's be aware of the reality of our lives, because I think sometimes if we can get that right, we can live without a marble in our boot.